Welcome to Biggest Spoilars, the destination for exclusive spoilers, latest updates.
Christina took the stage in Willow's trial, and Justine asked her about her and Willow having been members of Dawn of Day. Christina verified it and explained how some women were given training in munitions to cover their leader, Shiloh. Justine also got her to reveal that Willow had been part of that inner circle and entered armed training. Nina scurried out of the room before the cross-examination, where Alexis got Christina to relate how Michael had asked Willow to speak to her to help her from getting farther involved with the cult, and that she'd no way seen Willow with the armament. Justine also questioned Brooke Lynn about Edward's gun and where it was kept. When she asked her to swear to Willow and Drew's relationship while she was still wedded, Alexis tried to expostulate, but was overruled. Brooke Lynn admitted they were near, but when Justine asked how close, Alexis expostulated again. Brooke Lynn also explained that everyone saw them being intimate when the coitus tape recording was broadcast, but when Justine asked her to speak to Drew's important influence over Willow, Alexis expostulated formally more, and the acting DA wrapped it up. Alexis had no questions, so Brooke Lynn stepped down. Next over was Liz, who told the court how the gun was set up in Willow's room at her home. She also had to explain that she took Willow in after the defendant had ditched Drew at the balcony because he'd had an affair with her mama. Justine snarkily noted that was a heck of a motive, also withdrew her statement after Alexis's expostulation. The acting DA also questioned Liz about Willow and Drew's relationship and got her to admit they weren't on speaking terms at the time of the firing. Justine proposed that since Willow wasn't allowed to see her children while she was with Drew, she might have decided to remove that handicap. Alexis formally again expostulated, and the judge advised Justine to watch it. During the cross, Liz said that she'd no way seen Willow act hostile towards Drew and that she was a good nanny and mama. The judge called a recess, and Drew tried to assure upset Willow that the jury could see through Turner's games. He also berated Alexis for blowing it. "You keep this up," he seethed, "I swear to you, you'll no way see Scout again." In the hall, Chase asked what happened to the business cam footage, and Dante suspected someone got to it. Chase hoped he was incriminating him, averring he'd no way tamper with substantiation. Alexis argued to Drew that having the business prints supposed inadmissible was a big palm, but he declared that when he got on the stage, he was going to swear that he flashed back Michael shooting him. Alexis advised that their case wouldn't survive yet another taradiddle, and when he claimed he was willing to take that threat, the attorney got in his face and blazoned that she wouldn't support perjury and refused to risk losing her license again. When court was called back in session, Drew took the stage, and Justine questioned him about the evening he was shot. He explained that he'd a drink, opened the safe, and was shot in the reverse. She also asked if he knew who shot him, and everyone held their breath before he eventually admitted that he didn't. The execution rested, and when Alexis had no questions for Drew, the judge suspended for the day. As the courtroom cleared out, Alexis told him he made the right call. Drew whizzed back, "For your sake, you'd more hope I did. However, I swear to you I'll follow through on what I said, if you do'n't turn this around. Just because I didn't flash back Michael shooting me doesn't mean I won't." Alexis lowered, and behind her, Willow looked concerned. In Isaiah's cabin, he tried to keep Portia entertained while she relaxed, suggesting they play chess using checkers to replace some missing pieces. He grew emotional as he recalled his father tutoring him to play and admitted that learning he might be a pater got him allowing about his own. He promised that if this baby were his, he'd be the stylish father he could be. She knew he'd be and promised to get the maternity test as soon as possible. Latterly, Portia won the game, but their festivity was intruded by a call from Curtis checking in on her after she'd checked out of the sanitarium beforehand. When he offered to bring anything she demanded to her hostel room, she assured him she had a gal there taking good care of her. She changed the subject to the trial, and he gave her an update, saying he couldn't stay for this to be over so they could concentrate on their baby. Portia shot Isaiah a shamefaced look. After hanging up, she admitted that Curtis not knowing the verity about this situation made it hard to relax, and Isaiah promised everything would work out. Brad and Britt plotted to get together enough plutocrat to pay for their precious lunch, and he suggested they call someone for help, but she said they'd have to figure it out on their own. When the server offered to take the check, Britt stalled by ordering further Kate. And formerly he went back to the kitchen. She rushed out of the eatery with a stupefied Brad snappily following before. They returned to her room above Bobby's and laughed as they both agreed they were thrilled to be reunited. Brad admitted that when he set about she was alive, he prayed, espoused, and stole plutocrat to get back to Port Charles. Looking around her room, he wondered how she was paying for it and how she had induced Carly to let her stay there. Britt admitted it took a vil and also revealed that while no bone in City really liked her, she and Rocco had clicked. Brad was stupefied, and Britt complained that Lulu wanted her nowhere near Ben, despite her being an angel compared to the parent of her other sprat, Charlotte, videlicet the escaped con Valentine. Unfortunately, their party had a pooper when Chase knocked on her door and arrested them both. Jocelyn assured Jason she trusted him further than Jack, and verified that Dalton, Sidwell, and the 5 poppies were each connected to Faison's final design, but added that Britt isn't a victim but a willing party. She admitted she didn't know what the design was, exactly, but it involved cold emulsion. Jason also flashed back to Britt mentioning working on cold emulsion on the airplane. Back to Port Charles. Joss explained that Dalton was transferring Britt data to dissect, and after the 5 poppies was destroyed, she continued working with him in Port Charles and was likely involved in the professor's exposure. When Jason asked how she was getting substantiation on Sidwell, Joss revealed that she had been ordered to use Lucas, who had no idea he was now a WSB asset. Noting Jason's response when she mentioned Ladle Island, she pressed, and he admitted that when Britt first came back, he set up her on the jetties. She could have been heading there. Jocelyn refocused out that all the substantiation was gaping him in the face, but Jason argued that they could be forcing Britt to do their dirty work in exchange for her Huntington's meds. Jocelyn offered to get further information, but he didn't want her putting herself at threat. She claimed, and he noted that she was as stubborn as her mama, but prayed her to be careful. Joss promised she'd and smiled that it was nice working together. Lulu and Nathan both blasted Jack for inferring the operative was anything like Faison. Jack set up Nathan's memory loss rather accessible, and Nathan combated that he was a police operative sworn to cover and serve, which is veritably different from what the WSB does. Lulu agreed and lashed out at Jack for constantly trying to manipulate her. She ordered him out of her house, and Jack advised that the longer Valentine is free, the worse it'll be for everyone, including Charlotte. As he stormed out of the house, he ran into Nina. Brennan hoped she was there to fulfill her side of their deal. She braced herself and also knocked on the door, surprised to see her family outside. Lulu assumed she was there to see Charlotte, and Nina said she hoped to take her out to lunch. Charlotte came downward and prayed her mama to let her get out of the house, and when Lulu baffled, Nathan offered to put a guard on them. Lulu reluctantly agreed, and Nina attended Charlotte out the door. Nathan assured Lulu that Charlotte was well defended, but she bothered that her son had eavesdropped Jack hanging Valentine. Nathan praised Lulu for the way she stood up to Jack, and she said she didn't appreciate the way he went after him. She explained she knew what it was like to renew your life after it had moved on without you, and abominated that Maxie would soon know the same. Nathan assured her they'd help Maxie together. At Café Sherry, Nina asked Charlotte how she was doing and prompted her to be honest. The teen admitted she felt caught between her parents, and Nina assured her that she was Valentine's whole world, and it must be killing him not to be suitable to speak with her. Charlotte commended that he actually had been in contact, and Nina snappily told her not to say anything differently. There are veritably important men looking for your father, she rumored. On the good and bad side of the law. I love you so veritably much, but you see I ain't trust anyone with this. Not indeed me. Carly refused to believe that Jack was holding on to the indicting recording of her to use against her in the future, but Valentine reminded her she was nearly connected to Sunny and Jason, so she might not indeed be Brennan's real target. Carly recalled how Jack helped Jason, Anna, and Lucky, brought Charlotte home, and supported her while Michael was treated for his backs. Valentine wondered if his good deeds overbalanced what he'd done to her son. Carly didn't understand why Jack would save Michael only to put Jocelyn's life at threat by retaining her to the WSB. Valentine recalled how Jack played the part of his friend until he demanded a goat. He suspected Jack had genuine passions for her, but the fact that this recording meant their relationship was erected on a taradiddle, and she was always an asset to him. Valentine also declared that their agreement was over because he was seeing mistrustfulness and demanded to know that she was each by. "I'm just trying to figure out when Jack started to manipulate me," Carly said plaintively. "And I'm realizing that every good deed he's done was designed to make me feel safe so he could take advantage of me and my son. That makes me detest him indeed more. So let me be veritably clear. I've no way been more married to taking Jack Brennan down than I'm right now." How far will Carly go to help Valentine bring Jack down? Will Alexis be suitable to mount a successful defense for Willow that Drew wouldn't sabotage with his big mouth? How long can Portia put off chancing out who her baby daddy is? Partake your GH prognostications and opinions in the commentary below. In Port Charles, secrets don't stay buried forever, but sometimes they are protected. Sometimes they are locked behind badges, buried inside evidence rooms, and guarded by men who believe they are choosing the lesser evil. And that is exactly where Detective Harrison Chase now stands. Because Chase knows who deleted the traffic camera footage. He knows the name. He knows the motive. He knows how much damage the truth would do. And yet, he refuses to reveal it. This is not cowardice. This is not ignorance. This is a baptism, one forged in conflict, conscience, and consequence. The baptism begins when evidence disappears. The moment the traffic camera footage went missing, Port Charles shifted. What should have been an open and shut investigation turned into a fog of unanswered questions. The footage would have confirmed timelines. It would have exposed movements. It would have named who was lying and who was hiding. Instead, it vanished. No glitch. No power surge. No accident. Someone deliberately erased it. And Chase knew immediately that this wasn't just tampering, it was protection. Chase feels it in his bones. Harrison Chase has spent his career believing in process, procedure, and justice. He believes evidence tells the truth even when people won't. But this time, the evidence didn't just go missing, it was surgically removed. Clean. Precise. Intentional. Only someone with access, knowledge, and fear powerful enough to risk prison would dare do it. And when Chase followed the trail far enough, it led somewhere he never expected, and never wanted to go. The moment of recognition. The realization didn't come with a confession. It came with silence. A look held too long. A question answered too carefully. A nervous deflection that rang louder than any scream. Chase connected the dots, and when the final piece slid into place, it felt like a punch to the chest. Because the person who deleted the footage wasn't a criminal mastermind. It was someone he knew. Someone he respected. Someone whose life would implode if the truth came out. And that knowledge changed everything. Encouraging words, the voices that pull Chase back from the edge. Chase doesn't carry this burden alone for long. Anna Devane sees the weight on him before he ever speaks it aloud. She knows that look, the look of an officer torn between duty and devastation. She reminds him that the badge doesn't give him permission to decide who deserves protection, but it does demand he understand the cost of every choice. Brooke Lynn, too, senses the shift. She offers quiet reassurance, telling Chase that whatever he's facing, he doesn't have to lose himself to it. Their words don't absolve him. But they steady him. Why Chase won't reveal the name. Chase's silence isn't about loyalty, it's about fallout. Revealing the identity of the person who erased the footage wouldn't just close a case. It would ignite a war. Careers would end. Families would fracture. Old secrets, far worse than a deleted video, would come roaring into the light. And Chase knows something else. The person who did this didn't do it for personal gain. They did it out of fear. Fear of exposure. Fear of retaliation. Fear of what would happen if the wrong truth came out at the wrong time. Angry threats, the pressure closes in. Secrets don't stay quiet in Port Charles, and Chase's refusal to name names sets off alarms. The pressure begins subtly. A reminder from a superior. A warning cloaked as advice. A whispered suggestion that silence may come with consequences. Then the tone shifts. Threats surface, not always spoken aloud, but unmistakable. If this comes out, people will get hurt. Think about who you're protecting, and who you're endangering. You won't be able to stop what happens next. Chase listens. And still, he refuses. The moral war inside the badge. Every instinct Chase has tells him to turn the evidence over, name the culprit, and let the system do its job. But his conscience screams something louder. Justice without context is destruction. And this case, whatever it's tied to, is bigger than a traffic camera. There are layers beneath it. Dangerous ones. And Chase fears that pulling this thread will unravel something no one is prepared to face. The confrontation that almost breaks him. At one point, Chase comes face to face with the person responsible. No yelling. No accusations. Just a quiet exchange charged with everything unsaid. The person doesn't deny it. They simply ask one question. Are you really willing to destroy everything, just to say you followed the rules? That question haunts Chase. Because the answer isn't as simple as he once believed. Port Charles senses the storm. Rumors spread quickly. Why hasn't Chase closed the case? Why won't he hand over what he knows? What is he hiding? Some begin to suspect corruption. Others fear a cover-up. A few realize the truth might be worse than any lie. Trust in the system wavers. And Chase becomes a target, from both sides. The final baptism, silence as a sentence. By choosing silence, Chase condemns himself to scrutiny, suspicion, and sleepless nights. But he also buys time. Time for truths to surface safely. Time for people to prepare. Time to prevent a catastrophe that could swallow Port Charles whole. This is his baptism, not into heroism, but into consequence. Because once you know the truth, and choose not to speak it, you are changed forever. And in Port Charles, that kind of silence never lasts. Because eventually, the truth demands a voice. And when it finally speaks, it will be louder, deadlier, and far more destructive than anyone imagined.